The greatest crimes issue from a desire for excess and not from necessity.
Say what now?
Aristotle. Guess you read me then.
Aristotle once said, "The greatest crimes are not those committed for the sake of necessity, but those committed for the sake of superfluity. One does not become a tyrant to avoid exposure to the cold." Aristotle's quote is echoed in the world setting and theme of Cyberpunk 2077, and is at the core of what makes Cyberpunk a masterpiece, and frankly, one of the greatest games of all time. Cyberpunk 2077 is a masterpiece, and it always was a masterpiece despite what others might tell you. I, in my personal opinion, think it's CDPR's Magnus Opus, and it's a game that we will be talking about for years to come. From the themes it discusses, to the gameplay, to the story. It is true perfection. Welcome to the Yamanote Express, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and enjoy this video.
See you in the major leagues, Jack.
Jackie's death in Cyberpunk 2077 is a critical moment in the game that tugs at the player's heartstrings really well. You spent the last 4 to 5 hours playing with Jackie, and they built him up as a nice guy that's very different from the rest of Night City. He's loving, he's caring, he has a family that he cares about. And when he passes away, it tugs at your heartstrings because you built a connection with him. However, the city of Cyberpunk 2077 is grueling. It is unforgiving. The moment he passes away, you are not given any opportunity to grieve his death. Instead, you exit the car and you are greeted by an advertisement with some ass cheeks on it and the next quest, which is to head to room 204. And this is just a taste of how cruel the world of Cyberpunk can be. There's a lot of videos and discussion out there about how the world of Cyberpunk 2077 is not a criticism of what the world could be or a warning of what the world will become, and it's more of a warning of what the world is. And this is something that I find is very true. Cyberpunk just has an amazing world. No one is happy, and that kind of reflects the real world, I think. What's even better is that Cyberpunk 2077 serves as a warning of what the world could become if we let trillion-dollar corporations have more and more power, which they are indeed gaining in real life. The value of these faceless corporations is put ahead of basic human rights in many cases, and it's very apparent in the dark world of Cyberpunk. That's what makes Cyberpunk great. It's a believable world and could someday be our world, and there's a level of immersion to that. Now that we have set a tone for Night City, we can go back to the original quote by Aristotle. In this quote, Aristotle reflects on his perspective on the nature of wrongdoing and the moral implications of human actions. To understand this quote, we need to break it down into key components. The first being, the greatest crimes are not those committed for the sake of necessity. Here, Aristotle is suggesting that not all crimes are equally morally reprehensible. Some actions which he refers to as crimes are committed out of necessity. These actions may be driven by basic survival instincts or needs such as food, shelter, or safety. In such cases, the wrongdoing may be seen as more forgivable because it is driven by a fundamental human need. The second part of the quote, but those committed for the sake of superfluity. Aristotle contrasts crimes of necessity with crimes of superfluity. Superfluity means excess or extravagance. In this context, crimes are committed for the sake of superfluity are those that go beyond what is necessary for survival or well-being. These actions are driven by desires of luxury, power, non-essential indulgences. The third part being, one does not become a tyrant to avoid exposure to the cold. Aristotle provides an illustrative example to support his point. He suggests that becoming a tyrant, a ruler who exercises oppressive and unjust authority, is not something someone does out of necessity, such as trying to avoid exposure to the cold. Instead, it is an act driven by a desire of power and control, which he considers a greater moral transgression. In essence, Aristotle's quote highlights his beliefs that the severity of wrongdoing is not solely determined by the act itself, but by the motivations and intentions behind it. He argues that the actions taken out of necessity may be more forgivable because they are driven by basic human needs. while actions out of superfluity, which are pursuing power or excess, are more morally condemnable because they are driven by selfish desires and are disregarded for the well-being of others. Now, after that whole spiel, you might be wondering how this quote relates to Cyberpunk 2077. Well, overconsumption in the context of the game refers to an excessive and often unsustainable use of resources and technology within the game's dystopian futuristic setting. The game itself presents a world where advanced technology, cybernetic enhancements, and consumerism have reached extreme levels, leading to a society characterized by rampant overconsumption and its consequences. Overconsumption serves as a thematic backdrop of Cyberpunk 2077 to explore the consequences of unchecked technological advancement, corporate greed, and societal inequality. It prompts players to reflect on the ethical implications of a world where the pursuit of excess and the relentless quest for personal gain have led to a dystopian future. The game encourages players to consider the costs of overconsumption and whether there is a path to redemption or transformation within such a society. Now, you may be wondering who the criminals are in Cyberpunk 2077. Is it the player? Is it another player? Is it another character? Well, in the game, it's the megacorporations like Arasaka and Militech. These corporations hold significant power and act with impunity. They engage in illegal activities such as corporate espionage, weapon trafficking, and even murder to protect their interests. These corporations prioritize profit above all else and are willing to break the law to maintain their dominance. Corporate crime and greed serve as critical elements of the game's social commentary. They highlight the dangers of unbridled capitalism, corporate influence over governments, and the impact of unchecked greed on society. CDPR do an astounding job to relay this through the game, and Cyberpunk 2077 becomes a masterpiece because of it. Cyberpunk as a genre often serves as a platform for social commentary, particularly regarding the excess and inequalities of capitalism. It raises important questions about the consequences of unregulated corporate power and consumerism. By addressing these issues, Cyberpunk works engage with real-world concerns, prompting players and audiences to think critically about the implications of modern capitalism. In a cyberpunk setting, capitalism has usually reached its extreme, resulting in dystopian societies characterized by vast disparities in wealth, rampant corporate greed, and a disregard for individual rights. The vivid and immersive world building in Cyberpunk, like Cyberpunk 2077, allows players to explore the consequences of unchecked capitalism firsthand, making the critique way more impactful. Capitalism, as portrayed by the game, often shapes the characters in profound ways. Protagonists and antagonists alike are influenced by the capitalist society that they inhabit. Their motivations, struggles, and actions are intertwined with the economic system, making their character development and personal stories compelling and relatable. Many cyberpunk narratives feature protagonists who resist or rebel against oppressive capitalist forces, such as Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077. These characters become symbols of hope and resistance, inspiring people to question the status quo and consider alternative systems. The theme of resistance against capitalism often serves as a central plot element and sources of drama. The criticism of capitalism in cyberpunk works resonates with real-world issues and concerns, such as income inequality, corporate influence, and the impact of technology on society. By drawing parallels between their fictional worlds and contemporary challenges, cyberpunk masterpieces encourage audiences to reflect on the pressing issues. Now you might be saying, hold on a second, isn't this the game that crunched its dev long hours and delayed the game 3 whole times, all while lying about how the game looks during developer updates? Yes, you're right, this is them. And we definitely shouldn't overlook that because let's face it, don't you find it kind of ironic that the same game that criticizes late stage capitalism so hard is the same game that was made on the backs of those worker exploitation? I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it does reek of irony. Being a developer in today's world is a tough job. You're exploited by your employer heavily while working on contract, And then you receive death threats by customers who miss their expectations. Then when you go to form a union, you get shut down. Because that's enough of that. Cyberpunk is an important moment in gaming for many reasons. One of them being providing a platform for thought-provoking commentary on the consequences of capitalism, making it not only entertaining but intellectually stimulating and culturally relevant. Not only that, but Cyberpunk has done a great job making a comeback from where it started. Cyberpunk was always a masterpiece, and it will always continue to be a masterpiece. CDPR did an excellent job on this game, and it's just one of the top 10 pieces of art of all time. Thank you for watching the Yamanote Express, and please like, subscribe for more. Thanks.